Hi, today we are doing in history, we're doing the U.S. home front. Again, you will have just your reading and some questions, and if we have time, we're going to watch a short film clip. Okay? So here we go. All right. And that's if they get quiet. If they don't get quiet, we're not going to do this today, and they can do it at home tonight. Because I refuse to teach anymore until people get quiet.
Wait.
Yep. I'm sorry? Yeah, probably are too, but you know, you hand them out after class.
How you doing in a nice cozy bed? I think that's supposed to be what maybe you'll feel better.
Send some of those out. All right. I'm sorry, your first 3 minutes is going to be of everyone else that's talking, and that's not accomplishing anything.
Hey, it needs to be done.
Yeah, you ask them to be quiet, and they can't be quiet. And you ever just had one of those days where you're just like, no, I'm not going to put up with it today. Today is one of those days.
Thank you.
Yeah, everybody just needs one. Thank you. All right.
Miller, you shut up. No,
Again, you can find all this online. So when you have to answer your questions tonight at home, which it is homework, so you know I don't feel bad for you have to actually do something at home. But it's kind of sad that you have to when you could do it during class if you just quieten down and listen. But we're back again to that use your time wisely spill that I give you like 4 times a week that has not sunk in for some of you yet. Okay? Eventually you're going to figure it out. Okay? You'll figure it out. There's a time to play, there's time to work. Okay? If you work, then it leaves more time to play. If you play when you're supposed to be working, now you've got to work when you should be able to play. Okay? But that's choices that you are making. And your choices does have consequences. Contrary to what the world is trying to tell us right now, that we can do anything we want, there is no consequences. That is not true. Okay? You might not be held accountable here, but you will be held accountable later on for your actions. Okay? You will have a judgment day, so learn to hold yourself accountable. Okay? Even on the little things, hold yourself accountable. Okay? It just makes you a better person. Makes you a person that people wants to be around. Okay? Nobody wants to be around that guy that is just slack and lies and cheats and steals and will throw you under the bus in a heartbeat to get his way. Why do you want to call that guy a friend? That's not a friend.
Exactly.
A friend looks after you. Okay? So don't be that. Don't be that person. All right, here we go. The U.S. home front. Even though the fighting in World War II was all the way across the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans, the war did change the lives of everyone in America. The war effort in the United States was often called the home front. Okay? And that is the big sign there that up until recently that was used. James Montgomery flag, I want you for the U.S. Army. And it's Uncle Sam pointing his finger out at you going, I want you. Okay? All right.
Me?
All right, rationing. We talked about that. If you remember, we showed you the little rationing book here a while back when we started World War II. It had the little ration book that had the little stamps in it. Yeah. This is what we're talking about. Because of the war, many products were in short supply. Metal had to be used to make tanks and battleships. Medicine was needed for the battlefield. So also some products was hard to get as they came from countries that were at war. Think about we import stuff. Rubber for the tires was especially difficult to get because much of it was imported from Southeast Asia. And that's where the fighting's taking place. So, you know, you don't have people manufacturing the rubber to send over to make tires for cars. So It was hard to come by, okay? Medicine was hard to come by because it was being, only so much can be made, and you've got hundreds of thousands, million troops overseas. They might need medicine, people back home needs medicine, and all of a sudden it's getting hard to balance it all out. So people back home are having to sacrifice also, okay? They're not dodging bullets, but they are sacrificing. By the end of the war, many products was rationed. Each family would get a ration stamps allowing them to buy a certain amount of a type of product. Products rationed included, of course, tires, automobiles, because not many automobiles being made because metal are being used for tanks and things of that nature. Okay? Sugar, gasoline is in short supply, meat, butter, and coal. And a lot of people burned coal for heat. And it was rationed. So you had to be careful with it. You couldn't just chock your stove full and live the good life because you just had a whole stockpile of it there. You had to be careful. Okay? Women goes to work. Okay? During World War II began in 1939, there was around 190,000 men in the U.S. Army. By the time the war ended in 1945, there was over 10 million. Big jump. On top of this, factories in the U.S. were at full capacity making arms, tanks, ships, and vehicles for war. So there's a shortage of workers because believe it or not, back in these days, it was very, women didn't work factory jobs, things like that. They were not in the military. They were not police officers. They were not firemen. They were more nurses, secretaries. They might be, clerk in stores, salespeople in stores, things of that nature. A lot of women actually in these times was staying home with the kids, things like that. So they were not, finding a woman that was a welder at a shipyard back in 1940 until the war broke out. You didn't find that. But once the war broke out, this is when women stepped up, and they did. They proved, hey, they can do the job too. And they did, and they did it well. Okay? All right. And that's women lining up there for get sugar rationings, okay? All right. To fill the gap and help build supplies for the war, many women went to work. They took on tough physical labor jobs that previously had been done mostly by men. Women who went to work in factories were nicknamed Rosie the Riveter.
Oh, so cute.
Okay?
He's so cute.
They played a major role in keeping the factories running smoothly and producing much needed planes, tanks, and other arms for the Army. There was a little boy turning in his ration card because everyone in the family had to have a ration card. Otherwise, you showed up and you would claim, "Well, I got 10 kids," and which would not actually was not odd. My father came from 9, and my mother came from 10. Yeah.
My grandfather came from
Okay, so it was not unusual for especially rural farm people to have big families. It was free labor. That's what it was. That's why my parents had 5 of us. It wasn't that they loved kids. They just needed help on the farm. But they did love us. No, they did love us. It made it sound like my parents was horrible. They weren't, actually. They were very, very good people. Hard workers. All right, Japanese Americans. At the time of the war, there was many citizens of the United States of Japanese descent. After Pearl Harbor, many people didn't trust them and were worried that they would help Japan to invade America. In 1942, President Roosevelt signed a bill that ordered Japanese Americans to go to internment camps. Okay, and we've talked about the internment camps before. These camps were almost like prisons. They were guarded by soldiers and they were surrounded by barbed wire. They would help there. They could not just come and go as they pleased. But also, as we taught, they were not tortured. They were fed. No, the accommodations were not like home, but, it wasn't concentration camp style. They were not, well, I'm sure some of them was probably feared for their life because you didn't know what was coming.
The
But
concentration camp, like the one.
the concentration camps that the Nazis used on the Jewish people, that's what I'm saying, it was not like that.
Those were more like on prison.
Yeah, these were not, this was not forced labor camps and things like that. Although the people did lose everything they had. I mean, some of them was locked away for 2-3 years, so yeah, they did lose
The
everything.
camps we saw in those little pictures.
Yeah, yeah, that's what we're talking about. That's the internment camps. Okay, all right. Around 120,000 Japanese Americans were forced into the internment camps. They had to leave their homes, shops, and jobs. Many lost their homes and most of their possessions. In 1988, President Reagan actually signed a bill that gave reparations of $20,000 to the survivors, not their grandkids or something. They had to actually have been in one of the camps. If they were in the camp, then they received $20,000 from the government. And in 1989, President Bush actually gives a formal apology, which, you can weigh that either way. You kind of understand why if we had been attacked by, Sweden, we'd have been rounding up blonde-haired, blue-eyed people, it's just, you do. You can kind of understand it. Was it right? Maybe not, but you can understand why people were afraid and did it. Okay. The U.S. government knew, I'm sorry, I hear myself. The U.S. government knew that Americans must stay united in the war effort in order to win the war. They created all sorts of posters that showed patriotism and ways that people could help with the war effort from home. There was also a lot of wartime movies showing how brave the soldiers were and how evil Hitler and the enemy was. And all movie scripts had to be approved by the government. Okay? You could not glorify the enemy or make the American soldiers look bad in any way. Okay? Many celebrities also fought in the war. You had baseball players such as Joe DiMaggio and Ted Williams enlisted and fought.
What?
Movie stars such as Jimmy Stewart, Clark Gable joined the Army. At one point, At one point, the commissioner of Major League Baseball wrote a letter to President Roosevelt asking if professional baseball should continue during the war. Roosevelt responded that they should keep playing baseball because it was good for the country's morale. But the two that it named were the baseball players, Joe DiMaggio and Ted Williams. They were two of the biggest stars of the time. And they actually enlisted to serve. Okay? Now we have celebrities comes out and wants to get on their soapbox and tell you how you should live your life, but they don't put their money where their mouth is. Okay? These guys actually served in battle. Ted Williams was actually a fighter pilot. Yeah, he was a pilot. Okay? All right, interesting facts. Factories in the United States built over 80,000 tanks, 300,000 military planes, 2 million trucks, and millions of rifles and machine guns. The Allied countries produced significant more military weapons, vehicles, and aircraft than the Axis countries, which of course helps. You got more supplies. The United States supplied its allies with as much as half of their military weapons and arms. And this, of course, was a boom to the U.S. economy and helped to bring an end to the Great Depression. So people went to work. Isn't it sad that we had to go into a world war to help bring the country out of the Great Depression?
Stumps.
Okay? But it did. That brought the United States because people are working. People are making money. So we're coming out of it. Okay? All right. There's 15 minutes that you will never, ever get back. Okay. Bye.